Spooky season is upon us. Let's start it off with a real classic, 1996's Scream. Hi, my name's Drew and welcome to another review video on Flying Wiener. For the first time, I think I thought about this last year and I actually said that I might do it this year. I'm actually keeping to my word. I'm going to do what many review channels do on YouTube. For the whole month of October, I'm going to focus on scary films. Now, I've covered quite a few over the past 2.5 years now on this channel, but for this month, I'm going to stick to it all the way throughout. And I thought, I recently acquired the Blu-ray of 1996's Scream, so don't confuse this. I know this year, 2022, a film came out called Scream, and it is actually in the franchise, so for some reason, I don't know why they do that. I hate it when artists do that with either films or music albums as well, where they take the same title and just reuse it again. I feel it's just so weird, and to me it never makes any sense. So in the same franchise you have a film titled Scream in 1996 and one in 2022. But we are talking about the very first one, 1996's. While I heard that the new one is good, and I will also say at this point, I haven't actually seen any of the Scream films beyond the first one, which is something I will probably change because I have heard good things, not about every installment. I believe the fourth one is particularly interesting, and the new one, which is the fifth one, and there's going to be a sequel as well to that, the sixth one. So at some point I'll try and check all of them out, but I really like the first one. That's why I got the Blu-ray and rewatched it for the first time in probably 20 years. Now that was quite a funny experience, as you can imagine. A bit of a time jump, 26 years later, let's rewatch this film. But before we get stuck too much into it, just in case you have not seen Scream, it's a bit like a tongue twister there. I'll tell you about the plot first. Now, it is a slasher film. At a time, you must imagine, where slasher films weren't really popular anymore, or rather they were just straight to VHS or DVD, DVD not too soon for DVD, I believe, but anyway, straight to home media. They weren't really doing that well. It was more of a joke, wasn't taken serious. So along comes Wes Craven and makes this film, and it's about a typical small town, I suppose you could call it. We're focused on a high school, a group of high schoolers, and our main character is called Sidney. She's played by Neve Campbell. She is the main focus of the film, so she is the star of the film, but you've got a lot of really big names attached to this. So you've got most of all Drew Barrymore, and then you have Courtney Cox, you have David Arquette, you have many people here. So the story is mainly focused on her and Drew Barrymore's character. And what happens is, well, it's a slasher film, so a killer appears. In this case, it's Ghostface. I don't even think I need to really address this, but still, I'll say it just in case. You will know this face. I mean, it is funny reading up on the film. They actually tried to make their own mask, had 20 different designs, and ultimately they were like, well, why don't we just buy the rights, the licensing rights, to the actual mask that we used, as a template to make ours. And so that's what they did. And obviously by now it's just a world famous mask. Everyone knows it. Even people, I'm pretty sure right now, if I asked my stepson, about this mask, he would recognize it. But he wouldn't actually have seen Scream, I'm pretty sure. He will have seen Scary Movie probably, but he will not have seen Scream and know that it comes from that film. I'm pretty sure about that. But everyone knows this mask. So we have a killer, these killings happen, and obviously the question that you're asking yourself throughout the whole film is, who is the killer? So that is actually the plot. So the plot is obviously not that interesting. What I will mention though is, so what I find really interesting about the film is the character of Sidney. So staying focused on her for just a bit here, because she has gone through a lot of trauma. The year before the events of the film happened, her mother was killed. So, and now there's a killer again. So obviously that brings a lot of bad memories for her. And it's examined a lot. And I really like that. I feel that she's a great character. I think she's written really well. She's not bland, you know, it's not, where some of these characters can feel rather bland. I do feel that generally speaking, they're well written, on her in particular, because yeah, we get to see her dealing with this. And so I thought that was very good, where these slasher films, you know, you just have stupid high schoolers, I'll call them, you know, and they just get killed off in droves, etc. I really like that aspect here. And generally, now moving away a bit from the plot, because there's not really much more you can say about it, but this film is known because it examines a lot of the typical horror tropes and tries to subvert them and all these kind of things. And that is one of the things I really appreciate about it. Like I say, we don't have the stupid high schoolers, we've got interesting characters, but there are very, very many other things. It plays with a lot of the typical ideas that we have of these films and the kind of expectations that we have going in. So one thing I noticed is that actually not a lot of this film and the killings, etc., happen during the night. That's one of the things. So, you know, it basically can really happen anywhere. And that, I feel, while it is making a lot of fun in that sense of typical tropes, etc., the film itself I still find really scary because of that. Because, I mean, what's scarier than that? You know, when typically with these films, you're like, it's during the day, you know, there might be just a short wee scare, you know, like Michael Myers appearing behind a hedge or something like that in Halloween. But here it's really, no, people are actually getting killed during the day as well. It can happen anywhere, and I really, really love that. The characters themselves, they actually discuss horror tropes in the film, so it is very, very on the nose, you know. They are talking about these things like, I don't know, there's a party and one of them says, you know, the worst thing you can say in a horror film is, I'll be right back, you know, and then they obviously make fun of that and all these things. I think it's really clever, I really like that, and as a film fan, you know, it's great because it feels like you're sitting with a few friends and discussing tropes and all these kind of things that pop up. You know, they make a lot of fun of these things. There are accusations being thrown around. What makes it great is it's not just a great horror film, but it really is an interesting whodunit, because you are trying to figure out who it is, and you've got some very, very obvious people, and then there are things happening. You're like, okay, well, it just can't be them then, you know. So who is this killer? You know, and I feel it's very good. I like the reveal and everything, because you do find out. I will tell you that much. Minor spoiler, yes, but I won't tell you who it is, of course. But I really like just how it was all done. I feel it's also great. There isn't an unnecessary scene in this, I feel. You know, we're going through, it's a rather short film, but I feel all the time is used really well. So, you know, the suspense is great, the use of music, although it is, the setting and everything is quite funny. You're really jumping into a time capsule here, the 90s, you know, the clothes and the music and everything. Oh God, it is a very, very 90s film, this. And it must have also been, at least, you know, my impression was, it must have also been a period, I can't remember this myself, but seems to be a time when girls and women were particularly skinny. You know, some of them in this film, I was like, my God, you know, this is borderline unhealthy, it looks to me, you know. So I don't know, is that just my observation? But yeah, that's one thing I noticed immediately. So like their arms were very, very thin, and that you know, that was just in my mind for a minute there. I was thinking about that. I was like, I can't remember the 90s being like that, but okay, maybe they were, you know. Anyway, enough of that. But yes, at times it feels quite dated, but at the same time it's also very fun, you know, just being back in the 90s. Probably one of the best films, you know, that puts that on display. But overall, it's a really good package. Like I say, it is scary, you know, it's great, the tension's great, and when things happen, you've got the mystery going on. The humour is very good as well, I enjoyed it a lot. And I like a film that examines what the film genre should be about, but at the same time actually making a good job of it itself, you know, because you don't want it to be, obviously, you know, complaining about the tropes and all that, and then at the same time not producing a good product itself. So I am very happy with my first choice here for the month of October, or Shocktober, whatever all these names are that people give for October. Anyway, we're going to continue with this. I won't spoil what the other films will be. I've not quite decided yet. I've got a bunch of them collected. You know, I'm just trying to figure out which ones I'm going to do. Some of them will be new ones that I haven't seen yet, and others may also be ones that I have seen in the past and I'm looking at again, just like with Scream. But it is a very high recommendation for me if you want a good horror film, you know, especially if you are a 90s kid or just around then, you know. I feel that you will enjoy a lot about this film, but it is genuinely a good film. You know, don't think about Scary Movie, although the first Scary Movie film does have a special place in my heart, I will say. I mean, as a teenager, you know, you can't not love that film. Really, you know, I saw it when it came out. It was, you know, massive, of course. But, you know, not to neglect the origin of it, which is Scream. And actually, Scary Movie, before I forget, this was an interesting factoid. Scary Movie was actually the working title they had for Scream, you know, and only very, very late they changed it to Scream, actually, the producers did. While the writer and director, they wanted to stick with Scary Movie, but they changed it to Scream. I'm quite happy about that. I think it's better, and it's less on the nose, you know, because Scary Movie would have been a bit weird in that sense, because it does detract from the fact that this is genuinely a good film. That is well written and has got a good story. So, a good recommendation from me, you know, if you're looking for a film for Halloween or something like that, you know, something to enjoy, a nice romantic date on Halloween, you know, maybe you want to watch this film. But let me know in the comments down below if you've seen this film, you know, if you like it, of whatever. Have you seen the sequels? Which ones would you recommend? Like I say, in my knowledge, 4 and 5 are definitely supposed to be good. 2 and 3 I haven't heard much about, so maybe I'm not doing them justice, and they are also very good. I'll check them out eventually at some point, I feel. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe. It is the best way to support this channel. Like I say, comments down below, or if you've got recommendations, not just within the Scream franchise, but for other things, you know, let me know any of this, okay? I'll thank you again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video on Flying Wiener. Take care for spooky Halloween. Bye bye.